Hello and welcome. You're watching Best of the Bets. My name's Christina Nicolaides and we're looking at this weekend's sporting action. My regular guests are here. We have Sam Diamond, who's editor of Best of the Bets, and I'll get told off if I don't introduce him as our bookie extraordinaire. It's Gareth Walker. Welcome back to the show.
Good to be here.
And our editor extraordinaire.
Debatable.
For now.
Let's have a look at this weekend's games. We have Liverpool versus Norwich, Manchester City versus Fulham, Newcastle versus Reading. We have Swansea versus Stoke, West Ham versus QPR, Wigan versus Sunderland, and West Brom versus Aston Villa. Now we're going to start with Manchester City versus Fulham. So Manchester City last season beat Fulham 3-0. Surely it should be an easy win for Manchester City.
The betting would suggest so. Manchester City 1.25, the draw 6.4. Fulham 12.7. That's the biggest price on any team in England this weekend. Do you fancy your boys?
No.
Oh.
No, not at all. Yeah, very tough times for Fulham at the moment. Only 2 wins in 14. They drew at Blackpool in the Cup and went to extra time in midweek, which isn't going to help. I think 5 players who played there will probably feature this weekend. This will be a comfortable home win, as it was last season in similar freezing cold conditions. Man City, good opportunity for them to sort of crank the pressure up on United, move the gap to 4 points before they play on Sunday. I can see this being sort of 3-0, 4-0 comfortable.
3-0 is 6.9, 4-0 is 10.2. City just have to keep on winning, keep on churning out the wins, get their goal difference up as well. We all know how it finished last season, so they'll be looking for quite a few. Fulham could get dragged into the relegation battle. They're only 6 points ahead of the drop zone at the moment, not in a great run of form. If 1.25 is too short, one other way of playing would be to look at the handicap market. So giving up a goal head start, Manchester City a 1.6, so they'd have to win by 2 or more goals, but you're getting a better price, and I think that's a better way of doing it. And even giving up a 2-goal head start, you're getting odds against there. -2, Manchester City to win by -2 is 2.2. So basically, if they win by 3 or more goals, you've got a winning bet. So that's the direction I'd be pointing punters for this one. OK,
next we're going to move on to the West Midlands derby, West Brom versus Aston Villa. Paul Lambert's future, unfortunately, looks very bleak. West Brom have been hit by injuries. Jacob Long and Fortune 50-50 for this weekend.
It's gone wrong for both of them in the last few weeks. West Brom are 1.7 to win this. The draw's 3.8.
Yeah.
And Aston Villa are 5.4. Both sides looking for their first victory in 2013.
Yeah, you say that Paul Lambert's under pressure. I really think it would be the most stupid thing that Aston Villa could do would be to get rid of him. West Brom, we've said it so many times now.
Enigmatic.
Funny team, enigmatic. 2-0 up at Reading with 8 minutes remaining, and they lose the game. And who knows what kind of mental state that's going to have left the players in. I think this is a really good opportunity for Aston Villa to, bring some pride back to their performances.
They need to up their game. If they want to win this game, they do have to up their game.
They do. It's a perfect opportunity, though. A big local derby. Yeah. They owe something to the fans. They shouldn't even be thinking about the Capital One Cup second leg next week, and just give everything for this game. I think they could end up shocking them.
At a big old price, yeah. I mean, you look at Villa, it's only 5 weeks since they went to Anfield and won. West Brom have had the last 4 games this year have all been very, very winnable, very easy, easy games on paper. I can't trust them at odds on at 1.7, so I'd have to look for an alternative angle. A lot of people have said Villa need some experience in their defence. I'm not sure if it's experience. They need to improve, clearly. But
they have Ron Vlaar back this weekend.
That's going to be a big help. They need to get things better at the back. There's no doubt about that. I like the draw here actually at 3.8. Specifically, 1-1 is 7.4. And one other bet I like with this game is both teams not to score. I don't think there'll be many goals in this game. No. And you can get close to even money. It's 1.9 for both teams not to score. So for one of them to keep a clean sheet or both of them to keep a clean sheet, 1.9. That's a bet that I like as well.
OK. West Ham versus QPR. QPR, big boost for them. They did win the battle with Newcastle to sign Loic Remy.
Well, if Redknapp's playing a computer game, isn't he? I'll sign him, I'll sign him, I'll sign him. That should sort it all out. West Ham are 2.1, the draw's 3.5, and Queen's Park Rangers 3.9.
Yeah, QPR, it's been very interesting lately. Ever since that game with Liverpool where they were diabolical in the first half and found themselves 3-0 down, and then Harry Redknapp did something quite odd at half-time in a game when they were losing, taking off his only striker and bringing on Sean Derry to protect the defence. And they've gone with that ever since against Chelsea and Tottenham, and they haven't conceded a goal in those 2.5 games now. Whether they're going to stick with that kind of mentality for a game which, you know, they could feasibly take 3 points in, which they need, remains to be seen. But QPR like playing London teams. I think they've taken 14 of their last 26 points in the Premier League have come against other London sides. Well, yes.
So West Ham are a funny team.
I think QPR can win this. I'm going to go 1-0.
Are you going for an away win there? Yeah. 1-0 to QPR is 9. Always one team that goes into freefall in the second half of the season. West Ham might be a bit concerned it's them. You'd imagine that their home form will see them through. They've still got 4 of the bottom 5 to come to Upton Park, starting with this game. So you'd imagine they should be all right. Would you be prepared to trust them at just a shared odds against? I am actually. I'm happy to back West Ham at 2.1 here. But the home side to edge this, and 2-1 is a score that I like, 7.9.
Well, I'm going to go for the third option if you've gone for QPR and you've gone for West Ham. I'm going to go for the draw. Gareth says that West Ham may be one of those teams, but he quite right points out that they've got these home games remaining. And they have been strong at home this season, especially against teams in the bottom half. They haven't lost. That's going to continue, I think. If I have to go for a score, it's going to be 1-1, but I like the draw at 3.5.
And 1-0, 6.8, or just the draw outright, 3.5.
So moving on to our next game.
Are you going to start crying here?
Do I need to?
Well, look, make no mistake, Newcastle are banging trouble. I'll introduce the game for you. Newcastle against Reading. Newcastle 1.75, the draw 3.8. Reading 5. You know them best. How are you feeling?
It is a very testing time for Newcastle. Obviously, they lost the fight for Loic Remy. Who's going to score the goals? I don't know.
Well,
for Newcastle,
you're quite right to point out
the
the Loic Remy saga. Not just that, what's happening with Colaccini. I mean, all this misfortune sort of escalating for Newcastle this season, and we've seen it so many times over the years that when teams get into this position,
things just keep on going wrong. It's worrying times, definitely.
2 wins in 13 for Newcastle now. It's just not good enough.
And then Reading had a fantastic win.
They did. Their away record this season is pitiful, but if you are not brimming,
please don't say it.
If you are not brimming with confidence after coming back from 2-0 down with just a few minutes remaining to win, when are you going to be? This is surely Reading's opportunity to post something, I think.
Yeah, Reading at 5. Newcastle's issue is that they're not scoring goals and they're not as great as they have been defensively. If they lose this, they'll only be 2 points ahead of Reading, and everyone's been saying all season Reading are having a shocker, and they're going to be within 2 points if the worst happens for Newcastle and they lose this game. They've got a massive game against Aston Villa the week after as well. This is real crunch time for Newcastle.
I might even offer myself to Newcastle to play.
You'd probably get a game,
Saturday.
I'd imagine. Yeah, no problem. It was the worst game of the season last week at Norwich in terms of watching it as a neutral. Just shocking. Both sides just happy to get a point. Yeah. Delighted. Newcastle were delighted to get a point and stop the rot. The worry would be here that they may well have a similar mentality. I like your 0-0 bet, actually. Yeah. I'm impressed that you've not tipped up Newcastle for once. And 0-0 looks a really shrewd play, lots of different angles. 0-0 is 11.8. Yeah. Under 2.5 goals is 2.1. Both teams not to score is 1.95. I like all of those bets.
Are you going to go with a draw?
Yeah, definitely. I cannot possibly consider backing Newcastle at 1.75.
Is that the first time we've agreed?
I'm pretty certain it is, yes.
Well, I'm going to agree as well, as much as I talked up Reading and their high spirits.
They've not won away, have they?
2 points from 33 away, it stops me pulling the trigger on Reading outright, so it's the draw from me.
It's a unanimous verdict. Everything points to a draw. What better advice do you need?
Wigan versus Sunderland. What do we think?
Wigan 2.1, the draw 3.5, Sunderland 3.8. Can I call this one a relegation 6-pointer?
Almost certainly can.
I do like that phrase.
Well, I mean, Sunderland appear rejuvenated with some good wins lately.
4 wins in 7.
Yeah, 3-0 against West Ham. But again, they remain poor away. And I saw Wigan first hand last week. They were impressive for long periods. The problem they have now is a very serious injury to Ivan Ramy, who had become a key part of their back three.
Yeah.
I think this is just such a must-win game for Wigan that I really like. Odds against 2.1 for the home win is really good, and correct scores. I'd be looking 2-1, 8.1, or 3-1 even, 14.8. That's the sort of bets I like.
Yeah, well, I mean, Wigan have improved as well of late. I mean, in all competitions, it's just 1 defeat in 5, and that was to Manchester United. Does include a couple of very tricky FA Cup games with Bournemouth. But I think at least they're getting into the mentality now of not losing games. I'm going to sit on the fence again. I'm going to call a lot of draws, but that's the way I'm going this week. I think there'll be goals. and so I'll have a 2-2 scoreline, 13.4 and the draw at 3.5.
Yeah, it is. And perhaps if you like a lot of goals, both teams to score in this game is 1.8. We had quite a few games where there weren't many goals last weekend, but I think this one looks good for goals this week.
OK. Next game, Liverpool versus Norwich. We're going to find out what Mike Holden has to say about this particular game.
Liverpool have this problem, particularly at Anfield, in the last 18 months or so. You know, they do take a lot of shots at goal. I wouldn't say create so many chances, but they do take a lot of shots at goal. And, you know, they've got a terrible shot conversion rate when it comes to putting the ball in the back of the net at Anfield. I think it can change when they get the first goal early enough and they've got long enough to go at it. They can go on to get 2 or 3 perhaps, but generally speaking, they're not a high-scoring team at home. And I think there's opportunities there for Norwich to potentially nick a draw, but at the very least keep the score down.
Right, so we've heard what Mike has had to say.
Yeah, the under 2.5 goals is priced at 2.5. That was the way he was looking at it. I'm in agreement that Liverpool have got a shaky home record. 1.3 is very short. The draw's 5.5. Norwich as big as 10.5. But Norwich have been a worry recently. I think Liverpool will win 2-0. 5.3 would be where I'd be going.
I think Liverpool win as well.
Daniel Sturridge has fitted in quite well.
If he had a right foot, he'd have got them a point at Old Trafford last week.
Yeah, they've won 5, lost 4 of the last 9 games. Highlights their inconsistency.
Yeah.
But what they have done in their last 2 home games against Fulham and Sunderland, win by an aggregate scoreline of 7-0. So I think they're getting on track. Luis Suarez, consecutive hat-tricks against Norwich. I think he could be the man again. I'm going to go with him, first goal scorer.
First goal scorer, 3.4 for Suarez. It's short, but he's on fire.
Moving on to the next game, Swansea versus Stoke.
Swansea 2.15, the draw 3.4, Stoke 3.7.
Yeah, both of these teams were in FA Cup action in the week. And I think this could lead to quite a tired game. Swansea will certainly be focused on the second leg of their Capital One Cup the week after, and get into a first domestic final. So I think we could see low action here, not many goal scoring opportunities. I'm going to go no goal scorer.
No goal scorer is 8.1. Swansea have been very good defensively. Almost a clean sheet at Arsenal in the week. Clean sheets against Chelsea and Everton prior to that. I think Swansea will be glad to have a sort of winnable game that they can go into a bit more positive. Stoke not great last week, so I like 2-0 to Swansea, which is 8.4. If Jonathan Walters scores 2 own goals again, as he did last week, then in fact both our bets will be winners. So that would be fantastic.
We'll literally be laughing all the way to the bank.
Best bet for Saturday, Sam?
At the risk of upsetting my boss, I'm going to go Aston Villa at a big price against West Brom.
Ooh.
Aston Villa at 5.4. I'm going to go for the draw at Newcastle against Reading, 3.8. Big price.
Okay.
I cannot see. Well, I can't make a case for either side winning, the draw really stands out there.
Well, I'm going to go for QPR then to beat West Ham, 1-0.
QPR at 3.9. You're going for 1-0 as your best bet, which is 9. Good luck.
Okay. Thank you. Remember to place your bets on these games and much more, and to find all the latest odds, then head to www.heavenbet.com, and you can also follow us on Twitter at BestOfTheBets. Gareth, you've got an offer for us as well, though, haven't you? Yeah, for those that are at home thinking, well, I'm sure I can do better than those 2 jokers sitting on that settee. HeavenBet this week have launched 2 tipster competitions. They're both free to enter. One of them is called High Five. That is simply 5 yes or no questions based around the weekend's football action. Yep. If you get all 5 correct, you win €50. That's simple. And Super 6 is predicting the outcome of 6 different matches from across Europe. Again, very similar, free to enter, and a €50 prize for anyone that gets all answers correct. Fantastic. Join us after the break when we look at Sunday's games and the European action. See you then.
Site from Poker Heaven.